Welcome to Worship with the United Church. We are a peace and justice community, a movement towards wholeness in a fragmented world. And we are united in faith, inspired by God's Spirit. And we welcome all, we love all, and we seek justice for all. As we step into October, we step into change. The weather's cooler. The colors of the landscape are changing. Holidays are rapidly approaching. Pretty soon, many of our northern friends will be circling back, coming back to St. Augustine to share their sacred stories. And then before we know it, it'll be the new year. Ooh, I didn't say that. What I do want to say is that as we make our way through the end of this year and into the next year, we are going to be noticing and celebrating the interweaving of sacred neighbors, sacred seasons, sacred circles, sacred stories. Now, I think it should be noted that while these four topics can be presented as a neat and orderly list, they look pretty straight up when we print them out in the worship guide. The reality is there are so many interconnections and intersections when we talk about and we learn about our sacred neighbors and the sacred stories and sacred seasons and sacred circles, that nothing about them are actually neat and tidy. They are like an interweaving, constantly intersected, filled with interconnections. So as we move through this upcoming seasons and as we experience these interconnections and intersections and interweavings, our hope is to close the gaps. Close the gaps which keep us separated from each other and keep us separated from our neighbors. Close the gaps which keep us separated from other cultures and other faith traditions and other spiritual practices. So, with that in mind, the overarching title to this season in this series is Mind the Gap. Mind the gap. Have you ever heard that phrase before? If you've ever traveled to London and been on the tube or the London subway, you would have heard mind the gap repeatedly. Every single time those tube doors open or they close, passengers are reminded to mind the gap. Pay attention. Watch what's happening on that threshold. Pay attention to where you are and where you're going. Look at the distance. Be mindful of who or what you might be stepping over or rolling into. Pay attention to the separations. Mind the gap.